Hey, my name's Christian and I've been drawing creatures for a couple months now, getting really excited by this process. So yeah, I started drawing based off of a prompt for this guy. The prompt was Hybridon. I'd initially been looking at theropods, like T-Rexes and raptors, and I really enjoyed the form of a Triceratops. So I really wanted to create a hybrid, an amalgamation of the predator and prey. Put them together and see what I could come up with. So I was having fun playing with this crest. I think I accidentally stumbled upon this design. I just created an eye and circled it and immediately thought, oh wow, okay, it's like an orca's eye. So this crest turned into a whale tail, and now you have this very weird amalgamation of an orca and some kind of theropod. I thought it could be a really cool idea, and I got hooked on this visual, so I wanted to develop it a bit more. I started to look at the individual elements, like the arms and the legs. I really like the fat base of the feet. It gives it some weight. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to sculpt this creature, let's develop these elements a little closer up so I could use them as reference while I'm sculpting. And yeah, for this guy, I kind of came up with this narrative of an orca that's been left over in SeaWorld, neglected, and maybe a lab buys out SeaWorld to do some tests or to do some weird sci-fi experimentation. They turn this poor creature into a monster. So whenever I'm drawing creatures, I can't help but think of the narrative of whatever thing I'm drawing, the sounds it makes, how it moves, why it exists. Yeah, my girlfriend often comes in, says how crazy I sound because I can't help but make the noises of these creatures. It's just, you see it and you have to make the noise. It's like you're channeling this creature through your own body. But I brought this reference sheet into NomadSculpt, which is a really cool bit of software on your tablet. I still can't believe that you're able to sculpt and do all of this on a tablet. So much so that I cancelled my ZBrush subscription for it was £30 a month. I think it's like $45 maybe. And this Nomad Sculpt costs about £15, maybe $20. And that's a one-time purchase. So it blew my mind that this piece of software on a tablet has almost all of the features that I need personally as a very beginner sculptor, and it's half the price of 1 month of ZBrush. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth the price and definitely worth playing with. Right now, I did one sculpt on ZBrush beforehand for a different creature, and I learnt a few tools and techniques about creating primitives for limbs before you start sculpting individual elements. Block out the forms with basic spheres, deforming them into shapes that represent whatever thing you're trying to represent. So there's the calf, thigh, and foot. I'm adding some dodgy toes. I'm still learning, so if you think there's a better way of adding toes rather than this, do you add them individually? Is that better? These are all things I'm asking myself afterwards, but I still don't know what a better process would be. I guess I'll just try both and see what works for me. But at this stage, I created a more refined reference sheet for the back. So I just went and grabbed a few drawings that I did of the arm and the leg and the main body and put it together just so I can easily refer back to it. This is a fun point of the sculpt though, because it comes together so fast with these basic shapes. You're not doing much sculpting, you're just moving big objects around, and all of a sudden you have something that looks like it could run around, like a headless chicken. At this point, I'm getting very excited looking at this. There's something about working in 3D. You know, you draw it on the page and it's great, it's there, and it might be lovely. But when you have it in 3D, it's so cool to be able to pan around this real thing that you've made, especially if you're then able to print it. I thought it would be really interesting to print this out and maybe add in some armatures or ligaments or magnets between each arm so you could pose it in real life. I think that would be really cool. Maybe one day, we'll see, we'll try it. So I think I'm quite lazy when it comes to these types of things. I knew I wanted to just get this done, because more often than not, if I keep going at something for too long, I don't think I'll ever finish it. So it's better for me to know that I'm going to finish it today and do as much as I can and call it quits after that. If I extend it, I could easily get bored and it'll never get touched ever again. So maybe that's just an excuse for my laziness, for my lazy approaches. For example, the tongue there, I just duplicated the bottom, the jaw, and scaled it down and posed it until it looked like a tongue. It worked, I think. So yeah. And here's another lazy approach. The elbow is clipping into the lower thigh. So instead of undoing the remesh, where I merged all of the limbs together, I just used a crease brush and added in a line. You can see the crease brush working really well there as well. It's a really good tool, but you have to be working at a higher poly resolution, because otherwise you'll see the polys sort of crease in and it will look quite ugly. Right now I'm adding in the tubes, like I was saying, when he's being tested on and grown in that tube, sort of like Mewtwo in the Pokemon movie. It's like Pokemon 2000 with Lugia and the whistle. Oh my god, great film. When Mewtwo's being grown in that tube, that's sort of what I was imagining when I was designing those elements. Had in mind him breaking out. So yeah, I just discovered that you could add lights, HDRIs, you could add cameras and save them as scenes. It's unbelievable. And the fact that you're able to add in different types of materials, like refractive materials with subsurface potential, additive materials, more metallic ones. And this is all on a tablet, which is so cool, because you can be sat on a train, you could be sat in bed, you could be sat on the balcony, wherever, in a park, sculpting away, or sketching, and then you could do your whole design in a park. It's blowing me away. It does eat through the battery, but it's for how powerful it is, it's worth it. So for the water, I wanted the water to be flowing, and I wasn't going to sim it, obviously. I mean, I'm on a tablet, so I just thought, oh, maybe I can pull the mesh around and make it look like it's flowing. Although it's super low poly here, so I think I had to up it a few times. This voxel remeshing tool is a really incredible tool. Even in my work, which I work at a studio that works in ArcViz, and will often have some elements that would be easier sculpted than modeled in Max. So I often bring in objects to ZBrush and do a little bit of sculpting. I don't need ZBrush to do that anymore. I can just export the object, bring it onto my tablet, do whatever sculpting I need to, and export it back, which is crazy. It's a really great tool. You might spend £15 on a plugin that could do the same in Max, but if you spend £15 on this, you get a whole sculpting software. So right now I'm just sort of refining the composition and playing with this turntable feature that it has. It's I think it's a beta feature, so it's not perfect, but considering you can render out what is essentially an animation from your tablet in a matter of minutes, it's great for me. I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining about the functionality. It works. So I'm just adding in some extra lights and trying to play with detail of the surface. I didn't want to get too carried away. I could easily have sat there for 10 hours and messed with every little individual element, but like I said, I just wanted to get this out the door, and then I could say it's done and move on, learn from my mistakes, figure out new tools and move on to the next one. Again, if you see anything where you're like, whoa, that was weird, why the hell is he doing that? Let me know, please. Whatever, shoot me a message or a comment. Let me know how I can improve. Or hey, if you have tips and you fancy really helping me out, I'd be happy to get on a call and go through some bits. Adding in the teeth for a second time. I don't know why. I think I lost the original one somehow. They're a bit bright though, so using the paint tool I can just darken them pretty easily. That's another thing actually, the painting tool in this software is amazing for what it is, but I was curious to see if there were any if there's like any layering potential. For example, this white bit that I've done on the eye, I used a glossier paint than what the black is. However, if I wanted to edit the black, then I would need to overwrite that white because it's all on one layer. And yeah, here's the final sculpt and renders from Nomad's render options. I don't know if it's using an engine or how it's doing it, but yeah, there's the final creature. I hope you enjoyed watching my process, and again, you have any tips, any knowledge that you'd be happy to share with me, I will be happy to listen. So yeah, thanks for watching, and yeah, on to the next one.